Joining us now, Misty Marris, trial attorney and legal analyst. Misty, it was more than a picture, a grainy picture. It was a video and a voice telling these girls to go down the hill. So we saw who police always believed was the killer, and it was really their only piece of evidence to date. Were you surprised at all at the result of the jury's deliberation?
Well, the jury, I think, is the jury's role is to be the finder of fact. So they take everything that comes as evidence in the courtroom and they make a determination about the credibility, and they make determinations about what that evidence means. So to me, the linchpin question, if the jury believed that the individual in the bridge guy video, that individual was Richard Allen, this would absolutely result in a conviction. The defense had tried to paint a picture of reasonable doubt, focusing on the lapses in the investigation, focusing on the height of the individual in the bridge guy video, saying that investigators who ultimately admitted on the stand didn't do an analysis about whether or not the individual in the video was the same height as Richard Allen. So they did what they needed to do to try and paint reasonable doubt. But when it comes down to it, if the jury believed that that person was in fact Richard Allen, then a conviction was really inevitable. And I do think that video and the jury's conclusion about it is likely the reason for the ultimate conviction and was the most important piece of evidence in the case.
Right, because there wasn't DNA. They had a bullet at the crime scene, but technically they couldn't really tie that back to the gun that they found in his house. But what they did have, the prosecution, was 60 confessions to his wife, to his mom, to a psychologist who treated him, the warden, and other employees in the prison. But his defense said he was under duress, that none of those confessions could hold. The jury still heard it. Was that the ultimate decision as well for this jury?
Yeah, of course. And from the beginning of this trial, over 60 confessions made behind bars, some of which prosecutors said included information that only the killer would know. The jury was charged with making that very assessment that you just laid out, Marnie. Whether or not these confessions were made in a period of psychosis, there was an argument that his prison psychiatrist was actually a very big true crime fan and may have been telling him information that he wouldn't have otherwise known, that she should have actually stepped aside, that there was a conflict of interest for her to treat him because she used her position to gain information about the case she wouldn't have normally had access to. All of that relates to the defense argument, whether or not his mental condition at the time created a false confession to the tune of 61 times. Clearly, the jury believed the opposite. The jury believed that these confessions were, at least to some degree, had veracity, that they were true. And again, once the jury makes that conclusion, it inevitably leads to a guilty verdict. So if the jury believes Richard Allen is the person in that video, coupled with those confessions, that's really where you get to a full conviction on all of the charges.
Yeah, well, they clearly did. 19 hours of deliberating. He now faces 130 years in prison once he is sentenced. Misty, as always, thank you.
Thank you.